This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic. Well, welcome to another episode of the Grow My Clinic podcast. My name is Jack O'Brien, and I'm excited to bring you another guest to the podcast today. We have with us Marijn Kortekaas from Physitrack. Marijn, how are you today?
Good, Jack. How are you, mate? Good to be with you.
I'm fantastic. It is great to have you on the podcast. Now, for those who aren't familiar, Marijn runs Physitrack across Australia and across the world. Marijn, what is your official title in Physitrack?
I'm a partner in the business, so I own a small slice of the business, and I'm program director for the region Asia Pacific, so which is more or less Australia, New Zealand, but also quite a number of countries in Asia that are getting up to speed as well. So.
Fantastic. And you've been around Physitrack nearly since day one, is that right?
Yeah. So, yes, it's been a while. So coming up probably, 3-4 years. More or less from the day it launched in Australia. And
sure.
So it's been a while. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look. There's many different rabbit holes we could go down here today on the podcast, but I'd love to get a little bit of background on yourself. Obviously, it's not a typical Aussie Ocker accent you've got going on. So, who is Marijn, and how did you end up where you are today?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm trying to cover up that accent quite well, but I was actually born in Amsterdam, in Holland, and moved to Australia when I was, I can't remember how, it's been 15 years now. So when I was
wow.
30, not 20 and a bit. So I've originally, again, from Amsterdam, grew up there and studied business management with focusing on tourism. So that was my major there, and then worked with Nike for a while. So that was my first job out of uni. Very different, not really healthcare related, obviously, but I worked with Nike for a long time, looking after distributors at the time in the Middle East. So that was very interesting, shipping containers of runners to countries like Lebanon and Saudi Arabia and Israel. So making sure that those two shipments didn't end up in the hands, or a bit sensitive. But that was a great first job, to be honest, out of uni, working for a company like that, with the culture and kind of people working for Nike, and had a lot of fun as my first job, and it was actually quite fortunate to be able to join Nike here in Australia. And so that was about 15 years ago. Did things in RT and in custom operations, and did a few other things after that in industry called scent marketing. So using fragrances to create an ambience in retail stores, in hotels. So quite different. A lot of people probably would walk into a retail store and wouldn't really know, or at least consciously know, that there's something in the air. But that's what the companies did that I worked for at the time. So we're looking after distributors throughout Asia Pacific mostly, so quite a bit of travel involved, and again, a very fun, marketing focused and sales focused role as well during those years.
Okay, interesting. So, and now you're at Physitrack and been there for a couple of years, and to get listeners up to speed, Physitrack is it's becoming an all-in-one solution for exercise prescription, telehealth, outcome tracking, all sorts of elements of the patient experience when it comes to exercise software in the allied health space. And listeners, we'll get to the details and the ins and outs of Physitrack later in this episode and future episodes. But Marijn, an interesting question I had for you. You're working at Physitrack now, and you're not a health professional, and you're working in scent marketing, and I'd assume you didn't study scent marketing at university. So how does it work for you being in roles and dealing with people in something that you're not trained in as such?
Yeah, I guess I'm a bit of a generalist, to be honest. And if I like the product, if I like the company as a whole, then I'm pretty flexible in learning new things pretty quickly, I think. And I guess Physitrack is a good example. No healthcare background other than being a patient of a physio for many years. So for me, it was a bit of a deep dive, obviously, but I think it's all about listening and you're just absorbing as much as you can, and then kind of using any kind of skills you basically learned in the past to apply those skills, combining with new skills, new knowledge. Being able to I suppose talk and understand certain terminology, I think is probably key. Other than that, I think just basic people skills and being able to build relationships, which really kind of crosses over into many different jobs and career paths. So I think that was probably for me key to just get up to speed on on lingo, regulation, processes as soon as possible. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's fascinating. And so, can you touch a little bit more on your experience at Nike? Most of us are familiar that shoes don't cost $200-$300 to make, and yet Nike is a brand that it's a premium brand like Apple and Lexus and BMW. These brands that can sell products for way more than they cost to make. What are some of the lessons that you learned out of working for Nike and marketing a product around experience beyond just what it's worth?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned interesting brands, and I think most of those brands, and probably I suppose most brands in general, they try to be quite, I suppose, aspirational. I mean, when it comes to Nike, I mean, you see how I suppose the amounts of money they spend on sponsorship of athletes, for example, and it's all about connecting the consumer to an athlete and really kind of help consumers to aspire someone to be someone that they would love to be, whether it's the runner, whether it's the next Tiger Woods, or it could be anyone. So I think Nike, to use that as an example, is in the end it's one big marketing company really, and they happen to sell shoes or sporting gear or whatever else. But in the end, it's a marketing company that they create, I think, a very very compelling package. In terms of their offering, which again, like I said, is more than a pair of sports shoes that might only be X to manufacture, but it's really, I think, the value that consumers see around those products, and perhaps there's something aspirational that when I wear these shoes and I feel good, I go out for a run. Gets people out for a run. Lets people go to the gym because they feel good about themselves. So I think there's a whole positive element to that always attracted me to companies like Nike. Absolutely, yeah.
It's interesting, and I think for clinic owners listening, that marketing to people's aspirations is often something that's far more valuable than just marketing to their problems, or even the solution that you provide. It needs to go beyond the solution to the aspiration. I was working with clinic owners today even, and for those who have played with Facebook ads in the past, you'd be familiar that you can't market to people's problems, but to market to their aspirations. It comes in at a far lower acquisition cost. You're spending less because you're talking to aspirations. What about the scent marketing, Marijn? Can you speak to that? So we're talking about smelly, olfactory, things to do with people's noses, if things are getting lost here in translation, but what does scent marketing have to do with being able to sell or being able to convince people to buy?
Yeah, again, it's all about connecting a brand to the consumer, and a sense of smell is basically our strongest sense that we have. It's basically the scent receptors in our nose are directly linked to our limbic system in our brains that's responsible for anything from emotions to long-term memory. So let's say when you walk into a retail store, you have a great experience, great customer service, the environment in terms of the visuals is great, music is playing. And when you add scent to that, whenever you smell that scent, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years down the track, it really takes you back, and it's a bit of a well-known fact, but it takes you back to that experience.
Sure.
That's why the use of scent as a marketing tool is such a powerful way to connect a brand to a consumer, create a better experience, and also make people come back in a very, I suppose, very kind of low-level subconscious way.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of fun working with retailers, hotels as well. To really look at their brand and see, what's the type of consumer or guest that's coming to your property, and what kind of message do you want to portray as a brand? And by taking those brand elements, you would then design a fragrance around it to diffuse. Mm-hmm. A lot of hotels, in particular, they take it the next step further by selling scented products. So whether it's a candle, whether it's a room spray, with the same scent. So again, it allows consumers to take a piece of that brand home, which is pretty powerful, of course.
Fascinating. And listeners, Marijn presented at one of our recent workshops in Sydney in March 2018. I don't know whether we fed this back to you, Marijn. That was our most popular segment of that weekend. It was fascinating. And for Clinic Mastery Business Academy members, you can find that recording inside the content portal. Some of the key learnings that we took away from that were things like certain scents people familiarize with certain environments. So can you speak to, a day spa environment has a certain type of scent versus a sporting retail shop? What are those types of scents?
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite interesting, and then it comes down to certain notes that are part of certain scents. There's actually there's a lot of research that's done on pure essential natural oils, but also on man-made fragrances. So if you take, let's say, citrus fragrances, for example, they're shown to be antidepressant, working on an antidepressant level. Even, they work energizing as well. So if that's the kind of environment that you would like to create as a clinic owner, for example, you could think of kind of citrus type of scents, and in particular in winter sometimes where, it's maybe not so much in Brisbane or up north, but definitely here in Melbourne, it gets a bit chilly. So, to have that kind of, uplifting, energizing scent when you walk into a clinic, obviously, it really helps to even help your clients to put them in a certain frame of mind. So you can, through scent, make that change reasonably easy. Same for that kind of day spa scent issue, as you mentioned. So, anything like lavender, for example, is obviously quite soothing and calming. There's some others as well that you can add to that, and create a completely different experience as soon as you walk in. So again, with scent, just by diffusing a different scent in a space, you can really change that whole ambience, I suppose, with one change. So it's quite powerful.
Yeah, very powerful. And although it's not a clinical approach, it's something that can really have an impact on clinical outcomes. When patients are in a certain frame of mind or they're feeling relaxed, energized, it primes them to have a great experience with their therapist. And we know that when there's a really healthy patient-therapist interaction and relationship, that they get the outcomes and they adhere to their exercise programs if they're in the right state of mind, which leads us to Physitrack when it comes to exercise programs. Can you explain to us what Physitrack is and why it was developed? Why was there a need for something like Physitrack?
Yeah, so Physitrack, it was basically founded by two guys back in Europe in 2012, and it was actually one of the founders' brother-in-law. He had an ACL procedure done and was given a piece of paper with some exercises. Was lying in his bed. He had plenty of time to look at a piece of paper and think, and there must be a better way to motivate patients, actually to help patients to better remember their exercises, sure. For them to actually do the exercise in the first place. So that's how it all started. That's how the seed was planted. And so the two co-founders, they came together. Probably spent about 2 years and a few $1 million in terms of development to get the first version up and running back in 2014. And from there, basically developed on and tweaked and pivoted away from actually quite a bit from the initial version where it was all about exercise prescription with a bit of outcomes tracking. Then from there, it's kind of grown to basically become all about client engagement. So obviously, exercise is just one of the 4 components, as you mentioned before. You can track anything from adherence, pain scores, outcome measures is another big one. So you have 50 outcome measures you can assign to clients. See those results in real time as a practitioner. So great for any work cover claims, TAC claims, but then also adding things like education. So patient education, probably equally important, sometimes even more important than exercise, right? To make sure they understand their condition and how to best manage it. And then the last component that we added late last year was telehealth. So the option to have video calls with your clients, secure messaging with your clients. So again, really just on one hand, opening up opportunities for practitioners to treat their clients remotely where applicable, but also for clients, of course, to perhaps sometimes find a practitioner that may not live around the corner, but is the right practitioner for their condition. So that person could be living 500 kilometers away. So, sure. So really just kind of looking at, where's healthcare going and how can we basically look after both practitioners and clients?
Yeah, it's such a brilliant product. We use it in our clinic, my personal clinic, and across a lot of our Clinic Mastery members. So for those who aren't familiar, it's a cloud-based solution, essentially, that you subscribe per user, and you get access to how many thousand exercises now, Marijn? What are we up to?
Yeah, so just under 3,800. Just added another 250 last month, and that's basically updated every probably couple of months. Where we spend a weekend in a studio in London and push out another 200 or 300 exercises. So it's a growing part of it.
It's a huge library of exercises, and on top of that library of 3,800, you can put in your own custom exercises within a couple of clicks and a couple of seconds. You can customize your own exercises. Like you mentioned, there's a whole bunch of outcome measures. And for those who are interested in the details, we're going to press into that in a future episode. But you can jump over to clinicmastery.com/Physitrack1, That's Physitrack, PHYSITRACK, the number 1. And there's a 6-part series there on how the different features that you can utilize. But it lives in the cloud, and it's something that any practitioner can assign a program to their patient and then send it to that patient's phone. Is that how it works, Marijn?
Yeah, that's right. So then as a client, you download Physi app, which is the client app. And that's free to download, iOS, Android, Apple Watch, or the web. So if you have a computer, you can just jump online as well as a client. Enter an access code, and it gives you straight direct access to your customized exercise program, educational content, outcome measures. So as a client, super easy. That's key, obviously, to take away any hurdles for clients to come up with excuses to not to do their exercises. So we try to remove those. Absolutely.
It's a super smooth process. So before we get into the details of it, can you tell us about the story? So from the founders back over in Europe, what was then the evolution? Physitrack's growth curve has been up and to the right fairly steeply. What were some of the reasons behind that?
Yeah, I guess and one of the key, when we started with 200 exercise videos, and we thought we'd done a pretty good job until we started actually talking to some of our very early users and get an avalanche of feedback, which was fantastic. And we still call at least one user a day to collect feedback. So I guess one of the key.
Has that been deliberate?
Absolutely, yeah. So even our CEO and our CTO, so our co-founders, they call a user every day. So it's basically part of our mantra to speak to users every single day, one way or another, and to collect feedback. And
that's a really interesting lesson for clinic owners there. I'm sure you guys have thousands and hundreds of thousands of users, but yet you still speak to them one-on-one. Amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's really important, and it's really appreciated, I think. But on the other hand, it gives us just really, really valuable information about what works and doesn't, and that's what we can just take with the next sprint to update the platform. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
That's how we started, and then I guess one of our key things here in Australia, for example, was one of the first markets where we launched, and what was I suppose one of our key ways of how we get a massive breakthrough. 2 things in Australia. One, partner with the APA. So that's been fantastic. So it's all around education of members, and we do the same with ESSA as well. But the other thing that really helped us was partnering with Apple. Pretty cool partnership there where probably about 3 years ago now, they knocked on our door and said, well, we love what you guys do. Do you want to become part of what they call their mobility partner program? And what it is, Apple helps up-and-coming companies to create the best possible experience on iOS. They want to sell iPads, but they need to have some really cool apps that work really well on iOS, which is what they helped us with. We spent some time with their developers in Cupertino, in California, and so they actually helped us develop an iOS app for practitioners. So the Physitrack version for iOS. So as a practitioner on your iPad, iPhone, you can be mobile, video the client if you want to from inside the app and use the video for your program. So Apple's involvement on the sidelines has been fantastic, and that's still a partnership that's ongoing. So that's been really, really, really positive for us.
Fascinating. And so now, I don't know the stats, but I would guess you'd be one of the preeminent exercise software providers across Australia. But what's been some of the challenges with your role and rolling out across Australia? Obviously, we're dealing with physiotherapists and exercise physiologists, but a number of different professions and practice management softwares and confusion. What are some of the challenges, and how have you managed to overcome them?
Yeah, I guess probably the first challenge was to educate clients or practitioners on Physitrack and how Physitrack is quite different from a lot of other, let's say, exercise prescription software.
Well, it's such a big jump, right, from those who might have just been photocopying the old manila folder or even the server-based exercise prescription. Cloud-based technology is still a pretty foreign world for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it is, and it definitely used to be even more so probably 3 or 4 years ago, I must say, when a lot more people would come from paper to digital, and that I think that jump was pretty big. So that was probably, I suppose, the biggest challenge for us initially. Then the next challenge was really to educate clients on, there are some other exercise prescription providers out there, but how is Physitrack different? Because sometimes people look at it and just, within 10 seconds, they assume it's something similar, and then it comes down to price, and then sometimes people sign up and sometimes don't. That's fine. But there was one of the other challenges. The other one really, and this really came down to feedback was initially we didn't integrate with a lot of practice management systems at all, actually, which is something we placed a really, really key focus on in the last 2 years. So we now integrate with most practice management systems in Australia, quite a few overseas nowadays as well. And it really saves a ton of time, by opening your client straight from your PMS into Physitrack. We started also uploading exercise programs back from Physitrack into the PMS, into client notes. So certainly, again, saves you a ton of time. It really means you can focus on your PMS as your key platform, and knowing that key data out of Physitrack, for example, is sitting there as well. So those were some of the challenges. And again, this really came down to talking to users, understanding, how do you use Physitrack? What can we improve? And especially the integrations with PMSs has been a big one for us.
Yeah, that's huge. It's a massive differentiator, and the speed that creates it shortcuts the process now. I know on our end we can click a predefined program, maybe add in 1 or 2 exercises, add an outcome measure. The patient's already there, and it's done. You can assign a comprehensive exercise program with tracking and outcome measures and education to the right patient, to their phone and email within less than 60 seconds. It's absolutely remarkable. And so what are some of the cool testimonies or stories you've heard of maybe practitioners using this and overcoming some of their barriers? Have you got any interesting stories for us?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think in particular when we started launching the telehealth component, so we see some really, really exciting examples where practitioners start rolling out particular programs to a lot more clients than they could have done in the past. So Royal Flying Doctors, for example, in Tasmania, there's an exercise physiologist there, Stephen Stone. He's actually just won, EP of the Year with ESSA, where he's basically using Physitrack across a big part of Tasmania, where they roll out a preventative health program, which they basically use Physitrack to assign programs in education, have telehealth consultations as follow-ups as well. So again, it's a great, for us, it's really satisfying to see that, technology that we believe in obviously is being used in ways that really benefit a lot more clients. So a lot more clients can be reached. So that's probably one of the many examples. And the other example that we never really designed Physitrack for, but is equally exciting, I think, is to use it at universities for clinical research. So we see a lot of unis now, whether it's again with physios or EPs, also with dietitians using our platform to be able to reach a much bigger cohort of patients as part of the study, and just basically being able to collect outcomes data remotely. So it's there's some really cool examples out there.
Fantastic. That's super exciting. From your background in Nike and creating smelly stuff all the way through to rolling out this game-changing exercise prescription and telehealth and tracking software. It's remarkable. In a future episode, we're going to dig into some of the mechanics and how people are using it, some of the unknown features and all that fun stuff. But for now, if people want to learn more after this episode, where should they go to find out more about what you do?
Yeah, so if you want to have a quick look and jump on a free demo, you just go to physitrack.com. Nice and easy, big button on the homepage to start your demo, or on your Clinic Mastery website, of course, clinicmastery.com/Physitrack1 to find the some of those episodes you recorded on delving into the product deeper. So probably 2 good places to start.
Fantastic. Marijn, it's been lovely having you on the Grow My Clinic podcast. Listeners, you can head to those links that were just mentioned, and any other notes from this episode will be at clinicmastery.com/podcast. All of the show notes, everything that we've mentioned and referred to today, you can grab all the notes over there. And if you want to grow your clinic, there is a free resource for you to grab over there called the Grow My Clinic online course. Listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Grow My Clinic podcast. Marijn, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jack. It was great.
And we'll be with you with another episode really soon.
This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic.